Hey.
You have a book in your background, and I have a book right
Oh,
here. Just got a copy of Anthony Iannarino's
hey, you got his new book. I know. I tell you what.
Lost Art of Closing.
Yeah, I tell you what. It's a great book. Yeah, yeah. A lot of good books coming out.
Why do you think it's great?
Because there's so much to be learned in sales. I mean, sales. Can we say this bluntly? There's a lot of salespeople that are struggling out there.
Yeah, we can say it bluntly. I looked at sort of the history. You know, in 1985, Zig Ziglar came out with Secrets of Closing the Sale. And those were good techniques, and Ziglar mostly focused on building relationships and also having the courage to close sales. And then came, I believe, Tom Hopkins with the Sales Closing for Dummies book.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a very, very good book, very step-by-step. And a lot of the content in that book was about overcoming adversity. And then there were other books like Jeff Gitomer's in, I think, it was 2006, with the Little Red Book of Selling, where he says that customers don't like to be closed. Nobody likes to sell, but customers love to buy, and you need to help customers and take care of their concerns. So I think Gitomer was probably the first one to shift everything to a trusted advisor role. Mm-hmm. And then came this book where I think the major shift is that we're not talking, Anthony's not talking about closing. He's talking about a series of commitments, and he talks about the steps that you need to go through. And with every step, you end with a commitment so the customer understands what needs to be done and the salesperson has some clarity.
Which really, then, if you do that right, it eliminates that whole, how do I close? How do I close? Because it seems like people always struggle with two things, how to prospect and how to close. And yet, if you look at it as a continuum, it really becomes a very simple technique, very simple process.
Yeah, but you got to complete every step.
Yeah, and you can't short circuit, which I think is so interesting. It was interesting. I read an article today. Alex Rodriguez, the New York Yankees, and before that, the Texas Rangers. He cold called Warren Buffett. Go figure. Right. Cold called Warren Buffett. And, it was interesting because, he wanted to have him as a mentor. And he just picked up the phone and called him. And what's funny is that in today's era, we tend to think, and this really comes back to what Jeffrey Gitomer talks a lot about in terms of relationships and so forth, and networking and, so forth. It is still a game of creating contacts, creating relationships. And yet for some reason, people think if we just do it all on social media, and I'm not bashing social media because it works. It's, essentially we're using it now.
There's something said about mentorship in sales. And I think that every salesperson should have a mentor and every sales manager should have a mentor. We just did a cover story on Keith Crack, who is the chairman now of DocuSign. And when you go to sellingpower.com /DocuSign, you can read the cover story right now.
Right. Yeah. And you've got a good video on him also out there.
I have 4 videos. I just did a count. Those videos have over 2,000 views after 1 week. And there's one thing that in those videos where he talks about getting a call back from John Chambers from Cisco. And they hit it off, and they had a conversation on a flight actually from the United States to Spain. Mm-hmm. And John Chambers said, well, come and fly with me, and we'll have a conversation. And that started a mentorship process where they met once a month for breakfast. Mm-hmm. And he says, ask me anything. Mm-hmm. And to have another brain, a very smart brain in that case, to cycle your ideas and give you perspective on your challenges, you can grow. And I think that's what you and I are doing. We share our experiences, and I ask you, what do you think of that? or vice versa. And by having that relationship in a life setting, it's so productive, and everybody can grow with that.
Oh, it's huge. And yet, for some reason, the whole idea of mentorship, I think we went through this period where, no, I'm to be a man, I'm to be a woman, I'm to be able to stand on my own. Now I think we're finally coming back around and realizing the value of that.
Right.
I'll tell you what, you need a mentor, you need a coach. Everybody needs one. It was funny, but I've been wanting to ask you, have you been following the whole thing with Uber?
With what?
With Uber.
Uber, yeah.
Yeah.
What's your question?
Well, I mean, you look at how a culture is created, and you say, okay, well, maybe those well, I don't care what those actions are, but do those eventually come back to haunt you in terms of how you think, how you process, how you build the organization?
Right.
And I think it does in a huge way. Right. I mean, I think they've got much bigger problems than people realize.
That reminds me of a story we did with Dr. David Shore at Harvard University, and he is a specialist on culture and also on branding. And he talked about the relationship between the mindset of an organization and the health of an organization. Mm-hmm. And essentially, there are three things. I talk in sales about the right mindset, the right skill set, and the right tool set. But Dr. Shore talks about the mission, the vision, and the value system of an organization. So if the top people get together and say, what is our vision? And a vision has to be aspirational. What do we want to be? And Uber had a great vision. Mm-hmm. I have to hand it to them. That is something that did well. Yeah. Secondly, a mission is inspirational. That answers the question, why do we go to work? So in the case of Uber, the mission was to revolutionize the way people go from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. It's not just a cab. So they were innovative, and my hat's off to them because it's a brilliant idea. However, where they fall short is the value system.
Right.
This is the third leg of the stool. You want to spell out, how do we want to work together? How do we respect one another? How do we learn from one another? What are the values we abide by? If those values are not constructive, if those values are self-serving, then the organization is going to collapse.
So do the values affect, yes, it's very obvious the values are going to affect the top line and the bottom line. But then we have to stop and ask ourselves, how does the values come out in the sales transaction? And now,
that goes back to the typical challenge a sales manager has, that they want to change the salesperson's behaviors. Okay, and sales managers have a belief system that salespeople need to spend 40% or 50% of their time making calls, not doing paperwork, and not avoiding making the calls. And there's even a study if salespeople can increase the face time or the customer time from 35 to 55%, just that 10% increase of interaction with customers can double the company value in 2 years, which is enormous. And so if a sales manager has that belief system, it doesn't help if salespeople don't buy into that. Because here's the thing, sales managers want to change the behavior of salespeople. But where they're wrong is they're just dealing with the tip of the iceberg. What they need to do is talk about the beliefs. And if those beliefs are not changed, then no amount of training is going to make a difference.
I think without a doubt, and that's why when companies sit there and say, oh, we're going to train our salespeople, we're going to train this, so many times it doesn't work because what you've done is you haven't changed the beliefs. You haven't changed the culture. It's funny, I wrote that down, mission, vision, and values. And I think that's so spot on.
It's the same thing in the human mind. It's a reflection of the human mind. The vision is what is your goal? And the mission is what drives you to success.
Yeah.
And the value is the behavior, which is directed by the belief. So if I have a belief that I come to work and I want to create an organization where people feel respected, where people feel they're part of a winning organization, where people feel that their work is meaningful, then the organization is going to do much better. But if the leaders do something that's demeaning to people, then the meaning is lower, and then people scratch their heads and say, why am I working here?
Which is so typical in today's environment.
Right. And that's why culture needs character.
Culture needs character. That's a tweetable moment. I like that. That's you are on a roll today. I like that. I like that. Culture needs character. Yeah, it does, because really when it has character, then you can kind of feel it, see it, smell it, touch it.
Right.
You know, it's more personable.
I give you one example that I remember when I interviewed Stanley Gold, who was the CEO of Goodyear. And he was in his first year of transforming the organization. And before he arrived, they had a lot of debt, morale was low, the culture was in disarray. And he came into the organization, had a meeting with the top people, top 30 or whatever it was. And he came up with 36 things that they decided to change. And the first thing he did, he is repainted the Goodyear blimp. He recreated the logo. So he had something that people were looking up to. Mm-hmm. And it's like Steve Jobs, who thought about the design. So he was redesigning the culture. He had an open door policy. He brought his own stamps to work. And he didn't fire he fired maybe 2 people. And but he created that culture shift. And the number one priority is get rid of the debt burden. So he went on a company plane. He went to 36 cities, pitched the company stock, and got investors, paid off the debt. And by the end of the year, they had a positive balance sheet that the same 100,000 people they had before, but everybody was smiling. One person's character changed the culture.
So so do you feel it's possible for a mid-level manager to change the culture in their organization?
Right. I'll give you another example. Bill McDermott. He was the youngest vice president at Xerox. Mm-hmm. And he is given more and more responsibilities. So they gave him a big challenge. They gave him Puerto Rico as a territory. And they said, turn it around. They didn't have expectations that he could make a huge difference. But he went to Puerto Rico and realized that was territory number 64 out of 64 territories. And he says, my vision is, with the talent that I see around the table, that we can be the number 1 territory within 12 months. That's my vision. So how can we translate that into action steps? Mm-hmm. And everybody made a commitment to innovate, to eliminate waste, to contribute to the cause. And every month they measured themselves against all the other territories. But there was one thing that's so smart that Bill did that most managers don't look at. He says, what is it that you want? What is it? What is the goal that you want to achieve as people, as an organization, as a team, besides the numbers? And they said, we want to have a great Christmas party. And he says, done. So he hired the best singer in Puerto Rico. Mm-hmm. He booked a venue. And in the past, they had to pay for their own Christmas party. He says, the company is going to pay for it. But now that I'm promising you, you get what you want, you need to dignify that achievement with performance. And I expect you to perform. So long story short, and you can look it up in his book, Winner's Dream, he was able to lead them to the number 1 spot. So by December 31st, Puerto Rico was the best-selling territory of the Xerox organization.
Now, you know what? That is a great example, because that wasn't somebody at the top. He wasn't CEO. He wasn't even the CMO. Wasn't the VP of sales. Wasn't anything. He was a mid-level person.
Right.
And I think I can't remember. I was talking to somebody the other day, and this was the role of sales managers. You know, that first line, second line sales manager. And one of the things that I always say is, as a sales manager, I wanted to be the one who's my team everybody wanted to recruit from, and who's my team everyone wanted to join. Right. That was my number one goal. That to me, that was my benchmark. I wanted people trying to pick my people off, and I wanted everybody to join. But too many sales managers sit there and say, "Well, I can't do this. I can't do that." Why not? You can do that. I don't know. It
goes back to one word: the mindset.
The mindset. It drives me nuts. I was with a company last week. I won't mention the company, but they have probably one of the lower customer rating service scores of any company in America. And yet what was interesting was the teams I was working with a few teams, absolutely incredible, because they were led by people who said, I don't care what kind of organization we might be working for, who might sign our check. This is how we're going to create our culture. And believe me, they were changing the dynamics of their team, because everybody was stepping up to the plate and taking ownership.
Right. And I think that we also need to realize that there's a larger culture beyond the company culture. So we live within the American culture, and we're not always aware of that. But it's so easy to start a company in the United States. It's so easy now with new technology to assist you to implement your ideas in a much faster period of time. And there's something else I want to share, because I looked at the largest sales organizations of the United States. You know, we publish in Selling Power, the Selling Power 500. Mm-hmm. And I just picked out the 200 largest service companies over the past 15 years and analyzed their numbers. And what I found is that in the past 15 years, up until it's 2016, where we have the numbers now, here's the thing. They did $1.4 trillion in sales, the 200 largest service companies, that is. Their sales went up in 15 years by 122%. Guess by how much their head count went up, the employee count?
I bet it didn't go up at all.
No, it went up by 45%.
Oh, okay, by 45%. So still 100 versus 40. Yeah, so right. It was still
but
exponential return.
Now, the head count of the sales department went from 900,000 salespeople for those 200 companies down to 600,000,
right,
which is a third less. And sales per salesperson went up by 233%. So here's a picture on how technology can improve the sales results, can support more salespeople, grow companies, create jobs for so many other people. So it's really a sign that sales is the engine that drives the economy.
Oh, without doubt. You know, and I know you and I have said this before, and I know that we have some peers out there who would argue, but I think sales is easier than it's ever been because of all the tools that we have. I mean, we have so many mechanisms at our disposal. Right. I mean, we can argue, oh, nobody answers the phone, nobody does that. Yeah, but still, I can reach so many more people. Wow.
There's another idea that sales leaders need to put in their heads, which is the mindset of pivoting and changing and setting high expectations all the time. So if you're a sales manager out there, if you're not thinking about doubling your sales in the next 5 years, you shouldn't be in the race. And if you're not thinking about cutting your sales force by 20% in the same time frame, then you are not going to be competitive.
Yep.
You're not going to be a sales manager that leads salespeople to a higher level of productivity through technology.
I think without doubt you have to have that. You have to have that mindset. There's an expression I like to use. It's called a 1% CIP. In other words, every week I got to do 1% CIP. What that means is continuous improvement process. Every week I have to personally become 1% better.
Right.
If I just become 1% better each week, now think about it, even without the power of compounding, that's a 50% improvement in a year.
Right.
Boom, boom, boom. And that's what we have to have that. We have to embrace that type of mentality, or we will get run over.
Here's the way I see it. We need an idea funnel.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
We need an innovation funnel. And if you don't have on somewhere on your computer a reminder to implement more ideas and test more ideas, then you're just coasting. You want to try new things every single day.
Let me build on that. Failure is the start of success.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a random thought I just came up with. But I mean, somebody just said in their commencement address, they said, we used to look at failure as failure, and we now have to shift that mentality and really make failure as no. That's just another price that you pay along the road to achieving success.
Right.
And so, we got to dump all these ideas in. They may not all work. I don't care if they don't work. But out of it, I'm still going to learn something, and there's going to be ideas that will work, and those will be my 10x ideas that will grow exponentially. It's the approach we have to take to prospecting. I mean, I don't care if 90% of everybody I talk to says no. I could care less. I mean, no is only a moment in time; it's never permanent.
Right.
And B, I'm just going to move on to somebody else. Yeah, fascinating. Yeah.
So how long are we going to run this? We had about 20 minutes?
I think we're about 20 minutes into it. Why don't we go about five or 10 more minutes? You got 5 or 10 more minutes?
Let's run 5 more minutes. Yeah. I wish we had some questions from the audience. We got to build this in.
We do. We've got to. Now, of course, we did this kind of unannounced just to make sure that we got this technology working. But hey, it worked great. So we got to be building this in to get questions in there. And of course, we're going to be reposting this out on YouTube and various other things. But the idea is to really get a Facebook.
And also, we want to share with the audience the new technology we are not familiar with. We just you picked it at random. It's called BeLifestyle.
Hey, I didn't pick it at random. I reached out to my network, and my network told me. I mean, that was that power. I mean, and I give Phil Gerbishak a big shout out.
We benefit from the collective intelligence.
We do. I mean,
you're not that bright.
Because we were having a problem that first time we tried it, and I said, let me make a few phone calls, and I know some smart people. Clearly, everybody is smarter than me, and and again, that's one of those powerful tools that I think in sales, and not just in sales, but in business, we tend to forget, and we have a lot more knowledge out there than we give ourselves
so Mark, let's have some fun.
Yeah.
I think
whoops, you just broke up there a little bit. What was it?
I think technical difficulties.
I think we just experienced a little bit of technical difficulty, but I think we're over. The earth is shifting.
Let's do something fun.
Yeah.
Which is, I believe in the rule of 3.
Okay.
3 is something that people can remember. When you have 4 items, you usually forget the 4th.
Yep.
Okay. So give me the 3 rules for closing sales. Anthony has 10 rules in there, but give me 3.
Hey, let's cut them down. A, make it simple for the customer to do business with you. 2, the price the customer will pay will never be greater than what you tell them to pay. 3, let the customer create the value and the need. You don't create the value and the need.
Brilliant.
So that's 3 things off the top of my head. You know, it's funny. I read the galley. Oh, I read not because you've got the galley copy there of Anthony's book.
Right. Yeah.
I read the preview to the galley copy a couple months ago, and you know, I got to jump his case because he hasn't sent me a physical galley copy yet. So clearly, he likes you more than he likes me. So
well, and there must be a reason why he's punishing you and withholding information. He knows that you're very smart, and this book would make you much smarter than him.
Oh, you're laying it on too thick. Come on, guy.
What I like about is this chapter, commitment to change.
Mm-hmm.
And what comes to my mind is that the word change is overused, and it's almost like a cliche. You know,
mm-hmm.
It's almost like saying it is what it is. You know, and yet so many people are so resistant to change, and I really don't have a good suggestion on how to help people to think about change.
You know, it's because we want change, but we want everybody else to change,
right?
To fit us, right? We see that in we see that in everything,
right? So let's get personal. What is the last thing that you have changed about yourself?
What is the last thing? Boy, I got to stop. You know what? Boy, the last thing I changed. I mean, I changed a habit this morning. I only worked out once in the last week. And this morning I made sure I worked out, even though my schedule wasn't going to allow it. But that's not a major change. What is the big change? What's the big? Good question. Good question.
It's hard. It's hard. Everybody talks about we need.
Yeah. What about for you? What about for you?
Well, the stupidest thing is trying to change my golf swing.
Wow.
Here's the thing. I like doing what I like doing, which is putting. So I have no problem with setting up a putt that's 50 feet,
mm-hmm.
and then hitting like 10 balls and see whether I can get 1 in 10 in.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time I can. So I like to spend a lot of time doing what I love. But when it comes to driving, then I get tense, and I know I should practice more, and I have tried it, and I cannot get myself to do it. So now I've decided I'm going to take a lesson just for the driver and nothing else. And that's all I want to do. So I made a commitment, and that's what Anthony is writing about, commitment to change.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And now that I'm sharing this, I realize that I want to get better. And getting better is always associated to pain. And when we experience pain, we default to what we like to do better, what we like to do, what gives us emotional gratification.
Oh, you know what? Can I do a confession on that one?
All right.
I can open up my email, and there's some emails I got to read. There's some ones I got to dig into, but the mindset just isn't there. So what do? I immediately deviate. Oh, let me go check a news site. Let me go check a social media site, because I gotta stay busy. But I just can't get my brain to read and respond to this critical email. Right. And you think about that, but that's that mindset. But hey, back to your golf game. You drive for show, you putt for dough. So clearly you're making money by knowing how to putt.
Yeah. So but I think we discovered something, which is you have, and I admit to that too, that you have an escape hatch where you say, well, I should be thinking about this email. I should be thinking about the customer, but I want to check how many likes did I get on my tweet, or what happened on LinkedIn,
mm-hmm.
and make a comment on LinkedIn, because that's easy to do. And I think you're all guilty of that. And I'm glad we are having this discussion, because I can totally relate to that, where And here's the thing, what I have changed is I'm becoming totally aware that technology is pushing us to become human doings, and we need to be human beings. So what I'm doing twice...
Oh, wait a minute. Now, hold it. Now, that's another treatable moment. Don't be a human doing, be a human being. Well, that's treatable. You are on a roll. Excuse me while I jump over to social media here for just a moment.
So, and we need to focus on the now and not on the next. So a lot of people are preoccupied with the past. They want to get away from that difficult email and a difficult proposal or RFP or that cold call. And they're worried about the end of the month. They're worried about paying the bills, whatever it is. But we need to be now focused. We got to be in the present moment. And the best way to get in the present moment is just, I close my eyes, and as I breathe in, I say, I'm aware of my body. And as I exhale, I say, I'm letting go of all my tensions. And I do this 5 times. Slowly, breathe in, breathe out. I'm aware of my body. I'm letting go of all my tensions. And then all of a sudden, I'm back. I hit the reset button, and I'm focused. I'm truly focused on the conversation and what's going on inside and outside.
You know, that's a powerful concept. I remember the first time I heard that. There's a gentleman you and I talked about on a previous call, the Pacific Institute. What was the gentleman's name out of the Seattle area? Remember that consultant? The Pacific Institute. What was his name? He has since passed away. But when I sat through a session of his 25, 30 years ago, he taught that. And I'll tell you what, that was a game changer. And yet, you know what, just as you said it now, it's like, duh, hello.
Right.
How do we lose sight of what we learned years ago?
And I think we need to balance technology with humanity and work it out in a way so we can move forward without falling in the trap of turning into a human doing. Yeah.
I like that. Hey, we should probably wrap this up, but yes. Sales 3.0 is coming up in Vegas, right? Yeah, I know. You've sent me a couple emails, and I apologize. I got to get back to your staff, so I apologize. Right. Don't shoot me. I will.
Right. No, you are going to speak at Sales 3.0. I'm excited because we at Planet Hollywood, September 18th and 19th. We have about 29 extraordinary speakers. We have one billionaire actually there. Not going to mention his name.
Oh.
And we talk about aligning people, process, and technology. We talk about the right mindset, the right skill set, the right tool set. We have sales enablement practitioners, and the president of the Sales Enablement Society is going to speak. There are going to be a lot of interesting conversations about the future of technology. And there's one more thing that I want to mention. If you are not thinking artificial intelligence right now and how to make it work for your sales organization, you're not going to have a future. Everything is moving towards AI, and you want to take advantage of that. Machine learning is such a powerful force where we actually have machines to learn how to make software better, how to make managers better, how to make people better, how to feel better. So there's an exciting future ahead, and we want you to be part of it. So join us at Sales 3.0 in Las Vegas.
I love it. I'll be there. You'll be there. We will have a good time. And I'm glad my schedule finally allows for me to get there to it, because I've been talking about coming forever, but I will be there. So anyway, hey, next Wednesday, I'm with a client in Portland. We're going to have a hard time doing that. But
yeah, we're not going to do it next Wednesday. We skip, and then
we'll catch it the following week.
Yes.
And then we're going to start publicizing this, and the idea is to be.
And we want to invite the audience. We want to hear from you, and we want to have a dialogue.
You bet.
Okay.
You bet. Good. Hey, take care, man. See you later.